For over 15,000 years, native peoples like the Alaskan Haida, Tsimshian, and Nisga'a nations, the Washington, Yakima, and Quinault nations, have lived in interdependent relationship with the forests of the Pacific Northwest. The dominant society knew these tribes for their totem poles, basket weaving, cedar bark clothes, and masks. But it goes much deeper than that. Native peoples treat their community forests as a shared resource revolving around the need for economic stability, a deep respect for cultural traditions, and as indigenous people, an understanding that the forest is a place where the Creator is known and felt.
What you saw me doing first was saying a prayer. And in our ways, in the ways that I've been taught, you always give thanks for anything that the Creator has given us and that we are going to use. And always say that we pray that we use it in a good way and that we never waste anything and that we share what we have. I make the cut about not more than about a hand's breadth wide. And that depends on the size of the tree. If the tree is, it should be at least 2 handbreadths wide. And that's about a 35-year-old tree approximately. And I picked that tree because the tree was big enough, and it looked very fibrous, and it looked straight, and there were not very many branches. And it was in a place that would heal, it would get enough sun. In other words, it wasn't the north side, it was the east side of the tree. Then I made 2 side cuts. As I make those cuts, that's so you can get your pry. They used to use bone to actually pry that bark up. And you have to get right between the bark, the inner bark, and the sap, because if the sap is what makes you able to pull it away from the tree. And if you can hear it, you can hear this almost shh sound when you're actually there. And it feels real good because you know you're going to get a good pull. I like to stay where I'm at and separate the bark. When you start to roll it or fold it, you fold from the large end because it's the thinner end, and usually you have a tiny little piece that you will end up tying your bark with when you roll it up to remove it. And you never throw away, even if you your bark ends up breaking and there's a small piece of the inner bark, you never throw it away.
Watch me now.
Passing on traditional ways and cultural values instill in our Indian youth the spirit and preservation of their native culture. We are working to build a strong foundation for our young by sharing native wisdom and experience. We can see that it prepares their minds and opens their hearts to respect the land, their culture, and all living things.
This whole garment is made with pounded red cedar and thigh spun yellow, 2-strand twine. And that's what the whole thing will be constructed of. And this, when it's compact like this, is actually kind of stiff. And that's why when it goes down so it flows more carefully, that you'll open it up and you'll make it a little bit more soft, like the canoe cape. I have a pounding bench, and I pound it on the bench. And so if you pound it with a U, it splinters up just like this does. So I use the oak on my bench and U as a pounder.
Considered one of the most complex type of weaving in the world, Chilkat weaving uses thin strands of yellow cedar wrapped in wool.
When they first started taking notice of these robes, these chiefs' robes, it was the northern Tlinkits who were weaving it, and the tribal name was Chilkat, so they started calling these chiefs' robes Chilkat robes. But every tribe along the coast had their own tribal name for these royal chiefs' robes. So the Tsimshians originated it, and this is an old Tsimshian design. My loom has yellow cedar stakes here, side portions, and then the red cedar bar up here is drilled every inch, and a lacing is laced through, leather run above here, and then the warps are doubled and folded over that top, and then they hang down, and they're just hanging with the gravity and everything else you do with your hands. There's no heddle or shuttle. There's nothing fast about this weave. Everything is done with your hands.
Evelyn and her sister Holly learned from their mother and grandmother to carry on the traditional art of weaving and basket making.
You never became available to marriage of a Haida man if you hadn't had the expertise of making baskets that were necessary to uphold a household. One particular basket, which was made out of spruce root, that is from the Sitka spruce tree, is for holding water and is one of the most known basket throughout the world. This basket here is a colander style basket, and it was only used for harvesting dog salmon eggs. You would take it to the creek where the dog salmon is ready to spawn and kick it out of its water and take the fish and milk it, and the egg would come into your basket. Other functional basket is the shaman's basket or the medicine pouch. And this basket here is done by my mother, Dolores Churchill. And this piece really represents your connection with the spirit world, what we relied on in the cleansing of our inner selves. This basket here isn't very highly decorated. There isn't a lot of color. It has what is called the wild strawberry designs and the cockle shell. It's woven in spruce root. And you pick this basket up, and the basket reveals itself to be a burnt orange, the bleached beach ryegrass, and the maidenhair fern woven in a technique false embroidery, and with great decoration. But this is the basket that would be used for putting salt water, and you would be taking it and blowing it to the 4 directions so that you cleanse the spirits that will assist you in your cleansing, and so that they're purified first, and then you will drink from the cup.
Not unlike the Haida medicine cup, the highly stylized art form of the totem pole reflects the personal history of a family or individual.
The totem pole is a direct symbol of Northwest Coast culture. Here's who lives here. This is what a totem pole said. You're driving down the street in a city and you see the golden arches. You know that's McDonald's, you know. But a totem pole says, this is who lives here. You come, totem poles face the water in a traditional village. So when you were coming in by canoe, you knew which part of the beach to land at. If you were coming to visit somebody, if you know, and you didn't land right away, you stayed out in the water and you asked permission to come ashore and then come ashore. But you knew by those totem poles where they were. They told the history of a man or his tribe, his clan, his family, great things that had happened. And they still do. Even though I carve a totem pole for a non-native person or a corporation or someone like that, the criteria for carving the totem pole still exists. You know, what story does it tell that's going to tell about you and your family? How is it going to affect the people that come to your home or your business? I thought all my life that when I do have a family that I was going to be there for my children, and I feel like I've been very, very fortunate. I not only have 2 very, very nice boys. They're in their teenage years, and they're culturally aware. They sing and they dance and they drum, and they work with me in the shop. My younger son is a box bender. My older son is a fantastic designer and is becoming a good carver. And the satisfaction I get of being in the dance group and having my younger son, who's a drummer, standing on one side of me drumming. My older son, who's a dancer and a singer, standing on the other side of me singing and then dancing. He's one of our lead dancers. Is a feeling that's indescribable. It's that your heart just blows up, you know. In this case, I'm passing on a lot more than my name. My sons will get my regalia, they'll get my songs, and they'll carry into the new century, they'll carry what I've been trying to teach, and they'll be able to teach their children, and they know it. The best thing about it is they know it.
Cedar is our way of life. There's nothing that we ever made hundreds of years ago that didn't have something to do with cedar. The larger masts were carved from cedar, bentwood boxes, our clothing, tools we made, everything. Our whole life was cedar. Canoes, our transportation, everything. The alder we use for mass, our ceremonies, it's enriched, it's our culture. The cedar, basically, I mean, you could say we're people of the cedar.
As people of the cedar, totem poles, ceremonial masks, and bentwood boxes are shared as gifts and passed on from parent to child.
This is a bentwood box, and I started this quite a while ago. It's actually kind of embarrassing. I started it for my then unborn son as a gift for everything that any precious memorabilia as he grows up, little clippings of everything that's happened to him in his life, and I want to give it to him eventually. A Samagit or chief would have a very large bentwood chest, and a lot of times his personal regalia would be inside there. There's a whole list of laws that the Niska followed. There were moral codes. We still follow them today, and the biggest and the most important one was respect. Not just respecting each other or another human being or just life in general. We saw the woods and the water as living beings, as many First Nations people do. Whenever we take anything from the woods or the water, we always thank Wiyam Ligilaha. That's the Creator. We always thank God for what we received and ask that He replenish it.
This particular piece is painted on cedar planks and includes the raven, killer whale, and it also has the thunderbird, the chitwin or bear, and salmon, and it has a picture of the moon on the left-hand side. And I believe that as a tribe we can work together as a tribe, just like these animals learn to survive and they learn to hunt and fish and survive in the wild. They work together. They never set out to kill each other or to destroy each other, but they're living in this habitat together. And this is what I pictured our tribe as a unit, as a people. We can work things out.
As elders in the Pacific Northwest, awakening their young people to traditional ways is how indigenous communities are investing in their future.
The young people that are coming to the carving shed, they're here to learn a little bit about our style of carving and about tools. And we made them sets of tools to work with, and we're having them draw the designs and we're going to be having them working on little practice boards about like this, real small. And then we're going to be making the big screens, and we'll be doing all the carving on them because, but their names are going to be on the same plaque. When we put them in our clinic over here, their names are going to be right there with ours.
Paddling to the rhythm of song, Quinault tribespeople experience a direct connection to their ancestral past.
We got those 2 logs from the National Forest, and we moved those logs here, and they sat for a few years to get the greenness out, and then when the greenness comes out, then they're ready to carve. We started to work on those, a crew of about 3 people. And we worked on the May first, and it took about 6.5 months to finally carve and get ready to steam. And we went down the mouth of the river there. We built 2 fires on both sides of the May before the bow and stern were on. We filled her half full of water. We built 2 big bonfires and we put rocks in there, and we cooked the May so that the sides would be drawn out by the heat to pull it out, and then they put the hot rocks inside the May to push the sides out. So it in effect pulled and pushed the sides of the May out. It'll ride like an animal rides in the water, natural, and where it actually moves with the waves.
Pollution, poor forest management, contamination from nuclear waste, each have consequences that reduce the quality of life on this planet.
Hanford is the oldest and largest nuclear facility in the country. I used to say it was the most contaminated site in the world until Chernobyl happened. The onerous task of addressing the nuclear issue for the Yakima Nation is tied directly to our cultural concerns, which are the natural foods and medicines. The relativeness of the ecosystem, the environment, touches upon not only the ceded land that's down there in the Hanford site, but reaches clear up into here into the reservation land, which has 600,000 acres of timber. We have material in tanks down there. Some of those tanks hold in excess of 1 million gallons of material. And a diffusion process throughout the ages of unknown materials in these tanks causes it to become a very dangerous potential of explosion and contamination of this whole region. And if that was to happen here, as it happened in Russia, admittedly in 1957, where a similar type of storage facility, a tank, blew up and rendered 1,000 square miles uninhabitable. Were that to happen in this region, the culture of the Yakima Nation would be dead.
One of the problems that we have with not only the cedar trees, but we have problems with the gathering of our materials. The materials that we use, the bare grass is being harvested for floral use and sent overseas. But when they harvest this, it is cut off at the stalk. The whole stalk is cut and it never grows back again. When we harvest our bare grass to use, there's a certain area that we take and the rest grows out again during the next spring. One of the things that they told us that at our last, one of our gatherings that we had in Olympia, the Bureau of Land Management, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the state, Department of Natural Resources, the parks, Department of Fish and Games were all there at a panel at our meeting. We were weaving baskets during the time. They told us that we had to start getting permits for our basket material. And my aunt was sitting on one side of me, and she said, I told her, I said, I'm not going to get a permit. And she said, well, I'm not going to get a permit either. And another aunt on this side, and I said, I'm not going to get a permit. I'm going to go and exercise my treaty rights. And she says, well, I'm not getting a permit either, but you get up and you tell them. So I did. One of the things I told him is that there has been many things that you have taken from the Indian people. Our language is almost completely annihilated from here because we couldn't speak it in the schools. The culture, we couldn't practice our religion because it was a cult, as you say. And then you tell us that if we get the fish and we regulate it, that we will have more fish, that we will have more things to do. with the fish, and only to find out that we're fishing 1 day a week now. Our people can't survive on the 1 day a week fisheries. They wanted me to get up and tell you, and I said, what more can you take from us Indian people? If you could bottle the air, would you take that too?
Non-native management of the forests and clear cutting continues to challenge traditional Indian ways. It is possible, however, through communication, understanding, and mutual respect, that responsible land management can thrive alongside traditional tribal culture.
The Plum Creek Lumber Company, after the lawsuit, has been more easygoing with us wanting to deal with the issue of working cooperative agreement. We have memorandums of agreement with Plum Creek for access, for gathering, for hunting, firewood cutting, because a lot of our people depend on firewood also to warm their homes during the winter time. But they have been more aggressive with us about wanting to work together, wanting to deal with the issue rather than going to court with us. They want to work with the tribe. And one of the things that Plum Creek Lumber Company has just done is they took a group of us out to look for old growth cedar because the tribe is wanting to build our own longhouse. By winning the case, it kind of gives us back those gathering rights that we used to have. The camping rights of going in the mountains, the access to gates that are closed where you can't go in, places where we can gather cedar bark that we haven't been able to do for a long time, and brings back a lot of the culture to our people, because our culture is just now at Muckleshoot reawakening.
The Yakima people manage their land through community forestry practices. Community forestry takes its lessons from the forest.
Forestry is the #1 economic source for the Yakima Indian Nation. A sustainable forest, in my view, shows tremendous diversity in species composition, diameter, structure, and structure is the crown, the differences in the crown up and above. So it has to be diverse. We have to have trees and cover basically on the forest floor, but we also have to have large trees extending up, and we also need that horizontal diversity, the differences in diameters of the trees, from the very small saplings to the very large 46-inch ponderosa pine trees. And we must manage that in such a way that we always have these species present within the forest. Maybe not on every acre, but if we look at 10-acre settings, we would be able to find those trees. And in the composition of this forest, we need a diversity of species, from pine trees to fir trees to maybe spruces along the riparian zones. And the ecotones, the differences in which these forests meet up against the meadows. It's very important for the people. It's not a scientific understanding of this is why we're managing this. Again, it's tied into the culture of the people. What they find underneath the forests, they find foods and medicines that can be found under the canopies of certain forests. But if you go to a meadow, you'll find different foods and medicines. We have constant field trips with the council and with the people to gauge the effectiveness of our treatments and our management styles. And we hope to alter our treatments if it's going astray from the direction provided by the Yakima people. If we do something that is not acceptable to the public or to the Yakima Nation people, they let us know immediately. I mean, it's almost the next day, if not the next week, that somebody from the affected public will call in and let us know that they are not happy with either a campground or a special place along a stream or a certain road, or maybe it's too dusty, trucks are going by and they're creating too much dust or too much noise and things of that nature. So we're always adjusting, and we're trying to work cooperatively with the people and the Yakima Nation. There was a saying that the landscape reflects the values of the people, and I think that is very appropriate for Indian people and the Yakima Nation in particular.
The real elders in this world is something called rocks and the trees. The rocks are a little bit older, more of an elder, because the rocks were here when something called Earth was formed, those many million centuries ago. We American Indians and traditional indigenous people anywhere talk about Mother Earth, talk about family. And anybody will talk about family, how you are connected to your family, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. You treat them differently than you treat acquaintances, but you certainly will pay attention to your relatives. And what we need to understand, and is promoted, is what we say, all my relations. We're all related. So, Mother Earth, think about that. Pay attention to that particular word. Try to understand what it really means. We are all related. And the way we treat Mother Earth is how we're going to experience life in the future.